Do it, do it, do it, do it. Can you see all of me? Walk into my mystery and come inside. I don't know the words. From Jakks Pacific and their Sonic the Hedgehog 3 toy line, this is the 6-inch Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, I want you guys to know this right now. I love Shadow. I love him ironically and unironically. I love him for the memes. I love him just for who he is. I don't know. He's always worked for me. I like characters like this, that you can be goofy with just how try-hard they can be, but then Shadow actually has some good writing sometimes. So, I'm hoping that in the movie, it's gonna be more the good writing, because usually you don't mess up the Maria story, right? At the same time, I wouldn't be mad if Shadow rolled up and was like, "You don't want to mess with me. I could stay up past my bedtime." I'm sorry, I love him. Here he is in the box. He looks great. I like the render back here for the poster. You can see on the back here, we have Shadow. Shadow is a fierce and mysterious foe who is determined to accomplish his goals and won't let anything stand in his way. You got 22 points for articulation. In this wave, you got Sonic, Tails, and Robotnik. I actually saw Sonic and Tails at the store, but, you know, big move. Don't have that much money to throw around right now. Shadow's the one I really wanted. I would love to get Robotnik. As for Sonic and Tails, I mean, the figures are just a bit off-looking. I think the open mouths are really throwing them off for me. But Shadow looks great. Shadow, come on, let's go do sin together.
Shadow, it's me, the devil. Come with me, and you'll steal candy from babies and small businesses.
As he's standing there, looking like a genie who's gonna give me one wish since I freed him, I want you guys to know, this is not my first go-around with Jakks Sonic, right? I actually have a decent collection, I think, and I like their toy line. This is hands down the best Jakks Sonic figure. This might be the best toy I've ever seen from Jakks as a whole. It's actually kind of insane that this toy is going for like $15 when I picked him up, because he's so solid. He's great in every department. Paint, sculpting, articulation. We're going to go over it all, but just know, yes, I'm going to gush because I like Shadow, but I'm also going to gush because this toy legitimately is great for the price point. At first glance, the figure already looks incredible. You have a good bit of paint on the go, including red highlights for his quills, the white tuft of his chest fur, you have the muzzle in a good peach color, the gloves, the rings on the gloves, his inhibitors, you have the boots that are incredibly well done. Alongside that, the sculpting, again, broad strokes, is also really solid. You can see the very furry texture that we expect from the movie Sonic characters, because it just looks right. You have these quills and they're sculpted in such a way that he looks like what we've seen of the CG render for Shadow for this movie. So again, if you're just looking at in general, this figure looks great, but then he looks even better when you get in close. The eyes are what do it for me the most. You can see how they've detailed his irises. You have a very sharp pupil. He looks intense, and they even remembered the red around the rim of his eyes. Incredible. You have good paint within the ears to give the color there, and overall, the paint quality on the figure is really well done. I do have a couple of blotches, especially here on his inhibitor rings, but then look at this. They painted underneath his boots to give you the thrusters. That's an incredible level of detail, again, for a figure that is only going for like $15. They even remember the little hits of red here on the backs of his legs. You can also see we got the tail, we got the quills, we got all the proper back quills. It's a really, really spectacular figure. I keep going back to this, but you do have to factor in the price. You do have to factor in this price. You have a Marvel Legend come out that's $25 and doesn't have half the paint or sculpted detail of this Shadow. Jakks Pacific, even though the figures can sometimes be janky, even though they don't always have the paint or articulation we want, Jakks gives you good, solid, great even figures for super low prices in today's market. And I feel like this Shadow is a great example of that. You also have so much articulation on the go. So you have a ball joint in the head, get you so much range of expression. You can have kind of hopefulness. I don't know if this would be hopeful, but more like looking up. You can have much more menacing, have that all the way around, more mocking. It's great. It's a very solid ball joint. Universal at the shoulder with an upper arm cut and a double jointed elbow and a wrist hinge, go all the way around, and a knuckle joint, which means that we can give this guy accessories, though unfortunately he didn't come with any himself. A good diaphragm joint. You can't really use it. Oh, well. Pops right back in. Goes side to side. You can't go back and forward with it, though. You have a universal at the hip, though it is a bit hard to use just due to the sculpting of the pelvis, but you can get it around. There we go. Boop. We have an upper leg cut, a good, very good double jointed knee. You have a ball joint at the foot, as well as an extra hinge underneath the cuff, get you even further articulation down here. Look at that, go all the way to the side there. So, if we wanted to, boop, boop. So let's see how far can he go. He can go that far with both his feet still on the ground. Good lord. Jean-Claude Van Damme shadow over here. And then, yeah, you can see again, all the details on the back, even from afar, still look really, really good. My one complaint is actually a complaint with my own collection, because I was like, I'm going to give this guy a good-looking gun. And then I realized, oh wait, I literally have no figure that would have a gun that would fit his hands that wouldn't be like a Cybertronian gun. Give me a sec, I'll see what I have. I was able to find a Megatron that fits him. So this is the Megatron pistol that would have come with the Centurion drone from Hasbro Pulse. It was from an accessory pack. It is a bit too small. It is actually very too small for him. But, I mean, it'll work until I can get, like, a proper gun. I'm willing to bet that, like, any assault rifle you could get from, like, a Marvel Legends, probably a NECA. Actually, yeah, just because his hands are so big, I'd say I'm going to try to find a gun from, like, a NECA Terminator. Because they're 7 inches tall, the guns would be a little bit larger. But that'll look good. That'll look good, I think. Of course, I would have loved it if he came with a damn Chaos Emerald. But that's not the world we live in. I do wish there was an accessory here, but then I almost feel dirty saying that, considering, again, this is better than a Marvel Legends, and it's basically $10 cheaper. Just for fun, here he is alongside the Just Toys buildable Shadow. This has been my main display Shadow for a little while now, but in all honesty, yeah, no competition. Movie Shadow, I think, is a better figure, and he actually articulates, so he's better on both fronts. And then here he is alongside the 5-inch articulated Shadow from the video games that Jakks do, and also the 2.5-inch Jakks Shadow. Again, I feel pretty confident saying that, at least in my collection, this is the best Shadow. And comparing him to what I've seen of the Jazzwares Shadow, I still would feel confident saying this might very well be the best Shadow we have ever received. Even small details of this Shadow just really resonate with me, like his little mouth. With the Tails and the Sonic, you have those open mouths that just make the figure look a little bit weird. But even here, just that closed sneer. It gives you the Shadow that, of course, is meant for the movie, but if you snuck this on your video game display, would anyone really notice? And more importantly, would anyone really blame you? It's a wonderful figure, one that can fit so many different collections. Even if you just have a generic video game shelf, why not have this Shadow? It's perfect. I didn't even mention the butterfly joints. Look at that, there's butterfly joints on this guy. Just every time I mess with this figure to get him to a new pose for this video, it feels like I'm finding something new, another little paint app I missed, another bit of sculpted detail I missed, another bit of articulation or a joint that goes further than I thought it did. Man, I shouldn't be this impressed with an action figure. But I'll be honest, in a day and age where I have to try to justify the toys getting smaller while having a bigger price point, it's nice to have this. $15. You can't go to McDonald's and have a meal for $15 anymore. And yet you can get this awesome Shadow? I feel like I'm gushing. I feel like I actually need to say hashtag not sponsored. I am not sponsored here. I am just overtaken with just the quality on display here for this Shadow. I think it should be obvious by now, but I'm going to recommend this Shadow. In fact, I'm going to do more than recommend. I'd honestly say that if you have any interest in Sonic the Hedgehog, Video games, Jakks Pacific, toys. This is just a great figure to pick up. $15 for a toy really isn't that much nowadays. I hate to say it because I remember when that used to be able to get you a lot, but it's just chump change for toys at this point. Maybe it's inflation, maybe it's the companies going a little bit haywire, maybe it's something in between, but it's just nice to be this genuinely impressed by a figure at this price point again. I love this Shadow, and I honestly think most people who pick him up would love this Shadow too, even if it's just to do silly memes with him. In all honesty, now I'm just hoping that Jim Carrey Eggman is going to be half as good as this Shadow.